Stay frosty and head over to easymutt.com for the cheapest mutt coins on the market. And when I say cheapest, I mean it. We're talking 100K for around 13 bucks. Use code DIRECTOR for 5% off. Yo, what up, brothers? It's the Director. Chargers fans, you guys getting hyped for week 2 of the preseason with the Chargers and 49ers. Of course, this week, the Chargers and Niners did have a joint practice. We've seen a lot of big plays like this. Derwin James back to the house. George Kittle was the intended target, and Derwin James says, no, sir, we are taking this for a pick 6. It's been an awesome training camp with a lot of awesome big plays, and it's time to put all these to the test in the Chargers-Niners first preseason game coming up on Sunday. Of course, guys, remember, we will be live streaming this game with a ton of Chargers fans. I think we got over like 500 Chargers fans in the chat last stream. It should be a lot of fun. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys a breakdown of some of the things that I hope to see in this preseason game for the Chargers and some of the stuff we should expect in our opponent, the San Francisco 49ers. It should be a good one, dudes. Before we do get started, however, we do have a reminder for our giveaway. This giveaway will be launching very soon. We're giving away an Antonio Gates signed jersey to one of my subscribers. Again, if you guys want to leg up on how to win this jersey, just make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, hit that like button, and leave a nice comment for good measure. But of course, we don't stop there. We're showing love to our crew members as well. Big shout out to the crew members. You guys killed it this offseason, kept the lights on around here in the show, and really showed a lot of support for the show, guys. Thank you so much. All you gotta do to enter for this one is be a member of my crew. I'll give you guys a heads up when this giveaway is live. And with that, let's get into this one. Before we do, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this one. Lights, camera, action. The Chargers versus San Francisco 49ers preview show. It should be a good one today, guys. Before we do get started, in the comments section, let me know one player that you're really hoping to see a good sample size of from this week. Of course, the Chargers are resting their starters, so keep in mind these will be backups and rookies, etc., etc. Let's start with the first piece of news, I would say. Right after camp this morning, head coach Brandon Staley did say that Easton Stick will be starting for the Chargers on Sunday. This is likely Easton Stick's best shot to make the roster. Of course, the Chargers already cut, our third or fourth string quarterback and Costello. Now it's time for Easton Stick to try and make a case to stay on the roster. My biggest prediction, I think most accurate prediction here, is that Easton Stick does make the practice squad for the Chargers, but it certainly is a possibility for the Chargers to roster 3 quarterbacks, depending on the style of play, because of course, Easton Stick, much more mobile, maybe fits some of the plays of Justin Herbert just a little bit, as in comparison, Chase Daniel, maybe a more veteran, more old school kind of quarterback from the pocket kind of guy. Maybe that will mesh a little bit better if we do need to call upon a backup, but you never know. We're rooting for Easton Stick. He put up a pretty good show last week versus the Los Angeles Rams. Hopefully we can see it again in action on Sunday. Next up, we got to talk a little bit about cuts, all right? I think there's going to be at least 5 players cut after week 2. I think the Chargers will have to cut at least 5 players, maybe even more. And there's some guys that I'm highlighting that are fighting for a spot. Of course, Brandon Staley's going to take a really deep look at all these guys, see which ones he feels can contribute in the season, and everyone else is likely looking for a roster spot right now. The first guy we're going to talk about is the running backs, I would say. Justin Jackson, Joshua Kelly, Darius Bradwell. All of these guys are going to have to go out there and prove something this week. And honestly, it's kind of up in the air for me. I think Larry Roundtree really turned a lot of heads this last week, definitely putting up a nice performance versus the Rams. This week, it's going to be a much tougher contest. I think the San Francisco 49ers certainly have a really good defense, and even in their depth positions as well, I think they've got a lot of good players underneath their starters. So it's going to be a tough order for Jackson, Kelly, and Bradwell. Again, at this point, I'll give you guys updates of where my thoughts are right now. I think Jackson and Kelly are the most likely to get cut. Maybe Bradwell doesn't make the team team either, but Kelly to me is on thin ice after putting up a pretty mediocre performance versus the Rams last week as well. Another big camp battle that we've been seeing all offseason that a lot of Chargers fans are hoping to see some clarity through the preseason's games is going to be kicker, okay? Chargers kicker's been in a bad way for a long time. Of course, Badgley had a nice season a few years back, but since then it's been kind of a decline right now. We're hoping to see that the kicker battle between Vizcaino and Badgley heat up during this preseason game. Last week we saw a lot of field goal attempts, I think 2 by Vizcaino. Now we're hoping to see maybe a little bit of a sample size from Badgley. I'm sure they're going to be rotating those guys in just to see what they have. But yeah, there's still a lot to be determined as far as what the kicking game is looking like. I think it goes behind even more than just how accurate they are, how much kick power they have, but more as to maybe even their kickoffs as well. How much hang time is that ball going to have as well? So keep an eye on that too. Chargers kickoff. Who's kicking off, Vizcaino or Badgley? That might actually pull a factor into how the kicking battle shapes up. Okay. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about the undrafted free agents. Okay, we got Forrest Merrill, we got DeLuca, we got Ogbong Bemiga. There's a lot of guys out there fighting for a roster spot, and we're hoping to see maybe some of these guys play efficiently this week. Of course, Ogbong to me and Merrill did both stand out a lot last week versus the Los Angeles Rams. Maybe we do see it again this week. Again, all these guys are fighting for roster spots. At least 5 players will be cut after Sunday. Got to wait and see and hope that these guys put up some good performances on Sunday versus the Niners to maybe make the roster, okay? One of the biggest things I would say I'm also looking at this game is the battle at wide receiver, okay? A lot of these guys will be fighting for roster spots. Of course, we got Joe Reed up on here right now. Joe Reed, to me, feels like a safe name, right? He does have a lot to contribute in special teams. He's going to be a pretty decent returner for the squad. But there's also other guys, KJ Hill, Austin Proehl, Jason Moore, John Hurst. There's a lot of guys, you know, down the lower on the depth chart that are going to be fighting for a spot on this roster. And this Chargers wide receiver core right now, I would say, is pretty deep. Of course, you got one of the best duos in football with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. But behind him, you got guys like Josh Palmer, Jalen Guyton, Tyron Johnson, who are also elevated talents as well. So if there's one position on the Chargers offense that sees plenty of depth right now, I'm thinking it's wide receiver. So guys like Joe Reed, KJ Hill, they're going to have to fight tooth and nail to make the 53, maybe even after Sunday. Very interesting to see. Other guys just to note too, we got Brandon Fayoko, Cameron Hall, John Brandon, guys that made big plays in week 1. Of course, a lot of these guys, no guaranteed spot on the roster. We want to see these guys put up some good numbers or put up some good performances on Sunday versus the Niners. I'm particularly rooting for Brandon Fayoko, dude. I think he could be an awesome depth piece to this Chargers defensive line, okay? Let's talk a little bit about things specifically that I want to see in this game, okay? Things that I will be looking for, keeping an eagle eye watch on for the Chargers in this game, because there's a lot of repercussions to how the preseason shapes up. There's going to be guys earning jobs and maybe guys earning more snaps in the regular season. Of course, I want to see more from the Chargers rookie class that put up a stellar performance last week versus the Los Angeles Rams. At this point, man, Josh Palmer, he looks fantastic. I would love to see him featured more in this game as well. Of course, 6 receptions in his first game, definitely not bad. I'd like to see more out of him this week as well. Not because I think he's got more to prove, which he does, but more because I want to see what he's got. And I'm very excited to see the kind of plays that Josh Palmer, I'm really hoping to see Josh Palmer climb the depth chart as well over the offseason. I think that's the biggest reason I want to see him. Of course, we got other rookies like Trey McKitty that we didn't get to see a lot of last week. Trey McKitty, drafted by the Chargers, I would say maybe to be more of a blocking tight end. He certainly does have some skill when it comes to receiving as well, but I want to see and pay attention to number 88 on that line. Is he going to be blocking more often than not? Is he going to get any opportunities through the receiving game this week? We'll have to wait and see. Easton Stick, his tendencies are still kind of a mystery to this team. He hasn't seen very many snaps to determine how much he does target the tight end position, but I'd like to see maybe 1 or 2 targets thrown his way just to get a sample size of what he looks like as a receiver. But definitely the biggest thing I'm looking for is how does he look like in blocking? As a blocking tight end, what sort of performance does he put up? So look out for 88 out there. We didn't see a lot of him last week. Hoping to see more of him this week. Of course, we can't go through a Chargers, preview show without mentioning the rookie sensation Asante Samuel Jr., who has definitely been impressing not just Chargers fans, but the league as well. He has put the league on notice as maybe a dark horse candidate for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Very exciting playmaking we've seen out of this guy. This morning in camp, we did see a Asante Samuel pick. I think it was off of Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe it was Trey Lance. Very exciting to see this man making plays, and it's honestly a very impressive pick, too, jumping that route. He looked like a pro out there. He looked like his dad, Asante Samuel Sr., back in his day with the Eagles and I think the Patriots, etc., etc. So want to see more plays out of Asante Samuel. He looks awesome. Another thing I'm going to be looking for as well is going to be the depth at offensive line, okay? Offensive line has seen a makeover this offseason, right? But the depth, I feel, is going to be very important to this team as well. We've seen guys like Pipkins, Norton, and James. These guys have been all right. I feel like Pipkins has a lot to work on, but Hymus, I would say, not James, Hymus definitely stood out last week. I'd like to see more of him this week as well. I think this morning in practice, Hymus was playing at guard with, I think it was Filer playing at right tackle. Very interesting to see how the Chargers are practicing. Maybe we do see something similar in a live game action versus the Niners on Sunday, but keep an eye on that depth. We're likely not going to see any of our starters on offensive line this week, so just see how these guys pan out. Also, keep in mind, I'm not quite sure if Rashawn Slater is going to be getting a lot of snaps this week either, as he has been nursing a very minor injury. Let's not, get too hasty. A very minor injury, but from the other guys in that line, I'd like to see what they've got to offer as well. Next up, I'd like to see maybe a little bit more turnovers, okay? The Chargers definitely improving when it comes to the turnover ratio. Would like to see that continue this week. I feel like there's signs to be seen when it comes to a team turning a corner that way, right? Maybe saw some signs of this from the Miami Dolphins last season, perhaps even in preseason. If we see a little bit more evidence to suggest the Chargers are turning a corner in the terms of their defense, maybe that does spell better news for the Chargers and their turnover ratio going into the actual season. So keep in mind the turnovers. I would like to see at least one this game in favor of the Chargers. That would spell a lot of good news for the Bolts going forward. One of the last players I'll say that I'm excited to see in action this week, not quite certain if he's going to be playing, is Mark Webb. Mark Webb has been absolutely stellar in practice and in camp so far this offseason. I would like to see him on the field in live action football this week versus the Niners, man. He's definitely been a big-bodied presence defensive back that I would love to see make some plays this Sunday as well. So the last thing I will mention as far as the Chargers and things I'm hoping to see perhaps even improve is going to be that special teams, okay? The special teams unit was definitely a blemish on the Week 1 victory over the Los Angeles Rams. We allowed a lot of return yards versus the Rams last week. I'm hoping to see a lot of that cleaned up this week. I'm sure Darius Swinton, our special teams coordinator, had a lot to say about that game, and hopefully they figure some stuff out, because honestly, the Chargers do have a long way to go in cleaning up that unit before the regular season begins. All right, so what do we expect from this game? What do we think is going to happen? Well, the first thing I got to give you guys, keep you guys in mind of, is that the Niners might be starting more starters than we might think. The Chargers have already come out and said that they're not starting any starters this preseason. It's going to be the backups and the rookies, whereas the Niners might actually start Jimmy Garoppolo for a couple of drives. You can expect to see a lot of Trey Lance this week as well, who Trey Lance has shown a lot of spark. He's definitely really, really fast. One of those guys that can escape the pocket, create yards on the ground with his feet. But at the same time, Trey Lance, after the 80-yard bomb last week, maybe wasn't the best, most efficient quarterback out on the field, right? So as far as worrying about Trey Lance, I think the Chargers defense, even at the second and third string level, can handle him. But at the same time, you never know with these rookies. Maybe he figures something out between weeks 1 and 2 and absolutely lights this team on fire this week. But they also do have another quarterback on the roster. What's his name here? Nate Sudfeld, who might see a lot of action on Sunday as well. But just keep in mind, we haven't seen a lot from the Chargers as far as starters because we're not starting any of them this week or this preseason, but the Niners might actually do so. So that might skew the game in their favor just a little bit. The last guy I'm kind of keeping my eye on versus the Niners this week is Trey Sermon. Okay, Trey Sermon, definitely one of those, rookie draft prospects that looked really good coming into the season. He fell into a nice system with the San Francisco 49ers, and he could spell a problem for the Chargers. Honestly, in preseason, when I say problem, I mean, yeah, maybe the Chargers have a problem, holding him down. The Niners score maybe a couple more touchdowns than they likely would have versus our first team. But on the other hand, this is going to be really good practice for the squad versus a good running back in a good system, with good coaching and good offensive line. So I think Sermon's going to offer good competition for this Chargers team in preseason, but I would like to see them hold him down. If the Chargers' depth at defensive line and edge can hold down the fort versus a Sermon, I'm going to feel really good about the depth pieces that we have on this team going forward, okay? So I think I failed to do this last week, but what's your guys' predictions for the score of this game, okay? I think this game's also going to be somewhat defensive oriented, so I'm not quite sure how many points are going to be put on the board, but when it comes to the win, what do you guys think the score is going to be? My official prediction for the Chargers versus Niners on Sunday is going to be Chargers 17, Niners 13. Let me know what your guys' predictions are in the comment section below. Well, guys, that's going to do it for my video today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you did like this, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. This has been The Director. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty.